Hi, my name is Hsieh, and I'm the college and career counselor at Catalina Foothills High School. Today, we're going to go over some college planning and how we can help you prepare, regardless of what grade you're in. This is things that we can look at right now to start planning for getting into selective colleges or whichever college that you're thinking about doing. So, let's get started. There are three takeaways from this presentation. How do we strategically research colleges? What colleges consider, and how to stand out with your application. So we're going to go over a few of those things, plus a bunch of other things as well. But these are the main things that I would love for you to take away from this presentation. Before we get started, though, a fun fact for you. For the last 5 years, Catalina Foothills High School student has been accepted every year to the following colleges. So in each of the last 5 years, at least one student has been accepted to each of these colleges, which is pretty remarkable. And I love sharing that with our students and our family and our community. All right, let's get started with some research. So we offer a pretty robust system called Maya Learning. All of our students have access to it. And in Maya Learning, we can look at data that helps us figure out where our fellow Catalina Foothills High School students have been accepted to, and what were their statistics that help them get accepted to those places. And so one of our most popular school out-of-state schools that our students apply to and attend is University of Colorado Boulder. And so in my learning on the left-hand side, if you look at those under universities and you search for University of Colorado Boulder, this is what will come up. And so in the last, 5-10 years, this is the stats. We've had 250 or roughly 250 apply. We've had 118 accepted. We've had a 47% acceptance rate of those students, and not all of them did submit their test scores, but this is what their test scores were. So they had a 27 average on their ACT, a 3.81 average GPA, and a 2.29 average or minimum GPA. And I'm not sure if that might be an outlier, but maybe that year they accepted that student for those statistics. And so we can compare ourselves to what other students have achieved and how our statistics matches up with them. And this is part of the research that I would love for us to do as we think about all the different colleges that are available and different opportunities that might be of interest to us. And so this is part of that research process. Like, how many of my fellow or Catfoot alumni have been accepted to these schools? Let's use that data for our benefit to see how we can strategically look at different schools and research those schools to see if that might be a good fit for us. Another way to do that is called the common data set. And so if you just Google CDS 2025 University of Colorado, one of the first things that'll pop up is a common data set for that college. And then we go to that report, and this gives you a breakdown of all of the data and information from the most recent admitted class of University of Colorado at Boulder students. And so this will give you their SAT scores, what they're looking at, and everything else. So it looks a lot like this. I know this is a little bit small, but if you just Google it, you can see this for yourselves. So on the left-hand side, you'll see that what they value as very important in their academic or admissions decision is the rigor of their high school schedule. They also prioritize their academic GPA. And then secondly, what's important to them are the application essays, the recommendations, the extracurricular activities, the talent and ability, and the character and personal qualities, right, of those students. Where they find out about that character, the talent, is often from recommendations and from letters of recommendation. And so from recommendations as well as your essays. And so that's why those things are incredibly important. And then if you go into that middle section, the SAT and the ACT, University of Colorado at Boulder is a test optional school. And so if you look at it, only 32% of students have submitted their essay or their test scores from last year, which means 68% of students did not submit their test scores. And so that's why it's really hard when looking at the data for a lot of these schools to see how skewed that those test scores are. And so when students have a really high test score, they're definitely going to include it. And so if students have, like a 1200, a 1300, and they're like, oh, my test score doesn't quite meet the 50th percentile of that school, it's because a lot of times only 32% of those students have submitted their test scores. And so take that with a grain of salt, right? And so if you look at that, you'll see that 50 percentile for an SAT is a 1300, for the ACT is a 30. And so you might think, oh, my 1120 doesn't quite make this list. And then so you'll know, okay, maybe I should not include my test scores. Or my 1410 is super high on this list, so I should definitely include my test scores for this school. On the right-hand side, you'll see the statistics for GPA. So a lot of students, 57%, had a GPA of a 4.0, and this typically is unweighted GPA is what they're looking at here. And then all the way down to 8% who have between a 3.25 and a 3.49, right? And so everything in the middle. So if we have a 3.8 GPA, then we are in the midst of that 20th percentile who have well, that there's a gap there. Oh no, sorry, 20 percentile who have between a 3.75 and 3.99, and so we know. Oh, okay, we are within that 73% of students who have that GPA got accepted. So that is one of the ways that this CDS, this common data set, is incredibly helpful. Almost all schools provide this information. What they are generally used for is for like Princeton Review, US News, all the other places to help aggregate and rank these schools. And so it's free public information for anyone to look at and to review to help get a better understanding of what these schools are looking for and what are our chances of getting accepted. So you can look at any school. For the most part, they all provide this information, which is incredibly helpful. I know that as we are planning for college and thinking about different colleges and various things, it's incredibly stressful. And this is just a friendly reminder that we can shift our mentality a little bit because we actually possess way more control over this process than you think. Of the three main decisions for attending college, we control two of them. So which ones that I apply to or you apply to, and which one you decide to enroll at. The other decision, which colleges admit you, is out of your control, right? So two of those three things are in your control. And so just keep that in mind as we are looking at these various schools. We have way more control over this process than we think. And as we think about that, I like to do this 3+3+ whale strategy, right? So 3 schools that are safe schools, right? Where we match 75% of their statistics, maybe their GPA, maybe their test scores, that kind of thing. And then 3 likely schools. So 50th percentile, we match or we meet or exceed those criteria for SAT, ACT, or GPA. And then the 25%, these are the reach schools where we are in that 25 percentile range. And then I love for students to think about one whale of a school that they maybe don't meet any of their admission requirements or statistics, so to speak, but that it's a school that they would love to attend if given the chance. And so I'd like for students to think about that just in case, because you never know, because there's probably 16,000 high schools in the United States, which means there's around 16,000 valedictorians. All of those 16,000 aren't going to get into every single school. And so you always have a chance. So keep that in mind as we kind of go through this, right? So 3 plus 3 plus 1, I think a list of 10 schools, and it might be more for you, is a healthy way to look at your college lists and the different processes that goes with that. But at least it gives you a guideline and a way to get started. So we have some variation, we have some options, we have the ability to make those decisions that I mentioned before that we have control over. Number two takeaway is what are colleges looking for, right? We want to follow our interests. So I'll link this PDF in the description. But what are we doing at school, outside of school, and what are our hobbies and interests from ninth grade? Hopefully, like in ninth grade, we are trying a bunch of things. We are exploring different opportunities, different sports, different clubs, different music, or whatever it may be. And then in 10th grade, we start to kind of hone in on certain things that we really enjoy. So thing like certain activities or interests or whatever else. It could be baking, it could be coding, it could be Legos, it could be whatever it may be, right? But that we are just building on this list. We are kind of honing our interests, so that by 11th grade and into 12th grade, we have a pretty good idea of like, I am really good at community service, or at serving at my church, or whatever it may be. And so we just want to make sure that as we go from 9th to 10th to 11th to 12th, that we have this list of different interests and activities that we have been pursuing. Because colleges want to see, at least definitely for the most selective colleges, like, what are you doing in your spare time? Outside of school, outside of the rigors of academia and whatever else, like, how are you spending your free time? Are you just sitting at home, doom scrolling or playing video games or whatever it is? Or are you like trying to create your own video game, or getting to a level in video games, or whatever else that is incredibly impressive, or whatever, you know what I mean? So this is just a kind of a breakdown to kind of visually see like, what have you been doing each year, and how that, if you take a helicopter view of that, how has that benefited you or helped you become this amazing person that you are today? So another thing that we are going to share in the description is a link to this college admissions rubric. This is just an example of what colleges might use to review your application. There's going to be categories for academics, extracurriculars, personal statements, and personal qualities and fit. On the right-hand side, you'll typically see a bump for academics and rigor, times 1.5, and potentially for personal statements and essays, because they value those things higher. And so if we are a baseball player, are we how are we have we become a captain on our baseball team? Have we helped our team get to regionals or state? And are you being recruited at the national level for other colleges, or that kind of thing? Like, have we made a USA national team or something like that, right? So those are the ways that those activities can be elevated from 1 to 5 on this rubric, as just an example. So something to consider, like if we are, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, with our activities or with the things that we're doing, what kind of impact are we making? And then if we don't feel like we're making as much of an impact as we would like, maybe we shoot for that. Maybe this will help you, give you the incentive to, or the motivation to keep pushing for that leadership role, keep exploring different ways to have these life experiences that will help you stand out for other colleges and that kind of thing. All right, so standing out, right? Perfect timing for this. Oftentimes when I work with students, they just don't feel like their story has been all that interesting. And I always try to remind them, you don't need to have or achieved personal Sorry about that. So, yes, you don't need to have achieved or experienced the extraordinary to be an extraordinary person, right? No one has had your life. No one has had your circumstances, your upbringing, your situation, or whatever else. And so, we just want to make sure that we can reflect on what has made you this super amazing person, so that we can eloquently and articulately um, write those things in an essay or in a response, or just share them in a way that is compelling and interesting. And the other part of that is the other issue that students have a lot is that they just regurgitate everything in their activities list in that previous document, right? And that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that we share the why behind what we do, because what you do isn't who you are, right? Who you are is why you do what you do, right? Why is it so important that I am the captain of our baseball team? Why is it so important that I am a leader on our color guard, right? Why is it so important that I am a leader on concert chorale or whatever it may be, right? So we want to make sure that we share that why, because that's the reflection aspect that will help us stand out, that will help us with the admissions committee show that we are capable, that we have this ability to understand our role and why we are such a great individual and how we will achieve great things in our life, right? And that's how we stand out, is by reflecting on these experiences. And so for some of us, right, we may not have had a lot of experiences that have helped figure this out. And so maybe over the summer or the rest of this school year, or as we proceed, right, like look for those opportunities, seek those opportunities out. They might not just fall in your lap, so we might have to go out and find those on our own. And so here is your incentive. Here is your reminder that, maybe there's something this summer that you want to pursue. There is a community service project or a personal project, or maybe with baking, you want to try new recipes or create your own recipes or whatever it may be, right? Here's your chance to explore and your reminder to go explore and do those things. Yes, stand out through reflection, through sharing your why. And then one of the ways that we can do that is through my RISE brainstorm. Review your life, identify your roles, share your stories, explain your why. This RISE brainstorm is for college application essays or for scholarship applications or that kind of thing. Again, the PDF will be linked in the details or the comment or description. And you can use this as a way to help figure out, why do I do what I do, right? And so hopefully this will help you reflect and look at your past experiences or your upbringing, your childhood, and truly figure out, like, okay, I am a creator, I am a innovator, I am a leader, I am a mediator, I am a helper, I am a cheerleader, I am one of these roles. And it may, like, there's a list of these roles on this brainstorm. It's not all encompassing, but for the most part, we might fit one of these roles. And as we figure out this role, like, why is it so important for someone else to know this about me, right? Why is it so important for someone to know that I'm a leader? And how have I reinforced this idea of leadership in my life, and that kind of thing? So we want to make sure that we research our schools, we know what they're looking for, and we stand out with our approach, our application, our life. We show them what we are capable of and why, through reflection, that we are someone who is able to truly grasp the importance of what they're doing, who they are, and or who they want to become in their lives. So let's keep working on that. Feel free to reach out with any questions or comments. I'll also include my email address in the description. So love to help any way that I can. Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. All right.